Government officials on the radio this morning about the planning bill. Nuclear planning is the name of this, just to make a quick video on it. Now, I'll give you an example of the law, and I'd love if you people would understand the law. I'm going to give you the current situation. The current situation is that nuclear energy is banned by a dictate of the Green Party and a law they brought in. No big deal. That can be changed either by an EU regulation or an EU directive, which our government would have to agree to, or the Dáil Éireann could change it for some reason, the same as they made it, they can change it. If for whatever reason, and the other thing, the banning of nuclear energy may be illegal too because it was never assessed. Government is not in power of energy, it's the SCA is the process there. That's the proper process. They should have done an SCA for that. But for now, anyway, it's officially banned. Now, we'll say for some reason that ban was eased or lifted or whatever. The current situation could be then you'd have to have some government approval. They might decide to have a look at nuclear power. So the first thing would happen is they would know nothing about it. Bord Pleanála knows nothing about it. So they'd hire so-called experts. So the first thing would probably happen is BlackRock or Vanguard or some of these big multinational finance houses would get in on the act, and they'd send over a couple of Yankee or one or two French or something experts, and they'd look at it and look at some of the sites, and they'd decide to put one down in Moneypoint and let's say the other in Ballybay in County Monaghan for some reason, whatever. They have land there or whatever. They have a big state forest and they're going to knock it down and build a nuclear power station. There's no SCA. Our government does not comply with Article 3.2 of the SCA directive that there has to be a proper environmental report carried out after an assessment with public participation and the right to participate and the right to take judicial reviews. That doesn't happen in Ireland at all. All of the energy is ploughing ahead with non-compliance with this. And the last words of Article 3.2, it's Directive 200142 EC, is which sets the framework for future planning applications. So you have no setting of the framework at all. You have no setting of the framework at all. So they would come along then and they would advise the government and say, we're putting the two up here. And the next thing, the government would make it an SID, a Strategic Infrastructure Development, and that would cut out Monaghan County Council and cut out Clare County Council, so to go direct to An Bord Pleanála. Nobody in An Bord Pleanála is qualified to dictate what the various types of nuclear power. To be honest with you, I don't know myself. I'm sure most of you don't. So it'd be up to this company. So the next thing is there'd be a bit of talk, and the next thing they'd apply for planning permission in Clare and in Ballybay in County Monaghan. They'd apply for planning permission, and because it needs an EIA, an Environmental Impact Assessment under Part 10 of the Planning Act, they'd have to compile a lot of documentation in it. But the point is, it'd be the government would simply say, we support this, we're going to try and help you with this, we want this put in because it'll save our emissions or whatever. And the next thing is this private company would come along and do all the assessment. Now that is totally wrong. The law is it has to be the competent authority under the government. The government could appoint these people. They could appoint EirGrid to get expertise. And the EU says expertise has to be the best there is. So the government could have, but that's not what they're doing. They would set up the financial situation and then tell them, if you produce this power, we'll pay you a top price for 30 or 40 years. We'll enter a contract with you people, with the owners of these power stations, that we'll keep it going, paying for it for 40 years. It'd be very hard to get out of that. Not easy to get out of that, but they're quite capable of doing it. So the next thing now you have, folks, is they provide the report and all. And of course there'd be uproar. But remember, the SCA is not complied with. The Aarhus Convention is not complied with. The transboundary is not complied with. They should consult with Northern Ireland by putting a notice in the paper. The people of Northern Ireland should have a right to object to the one in Ballybay, but they won't. They'll only allow the Northern Ireland government to do it, and they won't comply with the Directive on Public Participation. So the next thing is, in they go to planning, and you have all this big spiel done by the people who are set to benefit. So you have a conflict of interest straight away. So that goes to Bord Pleanála. They're all arts degree people and environmental and water management and all that. They haven't a clue about nuclear reactors. disposal of nuclear waste, storing of nuclear waste. They haven't a clue about anything. So they're totally reliant on the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. They're totally reliant on the EIA directive and the company that does it. There's nobody there to quarter it. So the next thing is it goes through planning and there's uproar, and it goes through planning and Bord Pleanála grants it. It's 40,000 to challenge it. It's another 60 if there's an appeal, and it's another 20 if it's an appeal, and if it goes all the way to the High Court, it's 80,000. Where is the money going to be gathered for that? And you'll find they won't challenge it on the SEA, they'll challenge it on some other old thing. There's a big white swan or something up in Loch Major or whatever, and that'll be it, that'll fail. Whereas the correct way is to have an SEA for energy and to have a modification of it for renewable energy, where the people that do the assessment are paid for by the state. It takes a bit of time, and you can have a contribution from potential interested parties, neighbours and all that, but you can also have people to question what's in it. Do you get the point? The result is the final grant of the planning will be by Bord Pleanála, who don't have a clue about nuclear power. It'll go to courts, the Irish courts, where the judges haven't got a monkey's notion about nuclear power. All they can look at is the process. And up until now, no one has managed to point out the obvious thing, that there's no SEA done for the whole energy thing. That this is a local group employed by the local company from all over the place, and they are writing this stuff, and nobody knows where their intentions lie. They're paid for by BlackRock and Vanguard and all of these, or some big group, or DSB or Bord na Móna, probably our money, but their job is to provide a report that will get them through planning. Now, do you understand that? And this, I have challenged wind farms on this, and I have won in a lot of cases. So I hope you understand that. Under the present law, you could have a nuclear power station granted planning permission by Bord Pleanála without any independent assessment whatsoever. The assessment will be carried out by a vested interest party, bought and paid for and supplied by the interested party, by the developer. Now, one of the things that has happened in that, they do out a name of a company, Big Tree Environmental Limited, Tullamore, County Offaly, and then they do a company. And what they're doing is they list out 15 specialists, so-and-so, 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 but they do not give their qualification. Moreover, there's no individual signature, and I have caught them on this. They have to have the name John Henry McCracken, BTFPBNGSOASTIE. Experience. I worked on the Sizewell power station in Britain for 4 years. I worked here and I worked there. In other words, even a qualification would not be enough. They'd have to have experience. So this is the lamentable situation. Now, I know that a nuclear power station, don't jump down my throat, is not on the cards. But under our law, there is no way of ensuring there is proper expertise. There is no one has ever signed their name down. Michael or Mary or Janet Cosgrave Smith, BSTOPOK, you know all the letters. And then I worked with a nuclear power plant in Turkey. And we have this experience, and I worked with one in the United States and all of that. That doesn't apply at all. Do you understand? That's why this is the ultimate corruption. And the planning bill will be taking a look at it, but I don't believe this is in it. They're dealing with the EIA only. And remember, under Irish law for a planning and development, under the Planning and Development Act, for a house or to build a wall or a swimming pool, you can only go to the Supreme Court in Dublin. And you're not covered by the expenses limitation. You have to pay the expenses of the other side if you lose. They're trying to cut back down on that big time, and it'll be not easy to challenge that because that's Irish law. Once it goes to an EIA, once it goes to an Environmental Impact Assessment Report under Directive 20 2011-92 EC and 214-52 EC. Once it goes to those and the habitus directives, they're covered by EU law. If you challenge them, you only pay the expenses of your own lawyer, you don't pay the other side. And you can go all the way to the European Court of Justice. So if it's an EIA project, I do not see how this planning and development bill can work. If they restrict the right to participate and say that a person in Cavan cannot object to a wind farm in Cork, that's a contrary to EU law, and that's why the newspapers are saying there'll be several challenges to it. Now, as we look at it, and I'm very busy, I think one thing that might be needed for me to organise is a letter to President Higgins. And I'll do out the letter and I'll give you the detail of it. And maybe if he got 50 or 60 letters or 100 letters, maybe it would affect him that he called the Council of State and let somebody advise him on that, because that is the law. The law is the overarching plan or programme must be an SEA, the EIA then for each individual project underneath it, which framework has been set by the overarching SEA. The SEA is the overarching, the EIA is the local one, the Habitats Directive is the local one, and then the planning is given by the Planning and Development Act. Understand that? So the current situation is like if you had a pub beside you, it's giving you awful trouble. There's drugs and there's noise and there's everything and drinking and fighting and everything, and you're getting the guards are objecting to it because of the noise and there's all of this and nobody succeeds, and he has no license at all. The real way to hit him is for having no license at all. And it's unbelievable, folks, and I tell you this, how I have struggled so much to get this basic law recognised. In the case of Friends of the Irish Environment, the government said that it's a budgetary matter, that the granting of all this and this nuclear power plant hypothetical and all the windmills are a budgetary matter and they're exempt the whole thing. Exempt the whole thing. Whereas the reality is it's in the directive about the budget. That's just not to stop the annual budget. So we had a budget in Ireland 2 weeks ago, and you can't challenge it on the SEA. So if they said they're going to give, as they did, money for heat pumps, you couldn't challenge the whole budget on that. You might challenge that little section, but the rest of the budget's all right. It's only when they go then to bring in heat pumps or some regulation or some little prompt or something about heat pumps and say the money goes to that, then you can hit them with the SEA. Quite safe, quite simple. But they're claiming the SEA directive, the article about the budgetary, lets them get out of it completely, and that's before the European Court of Justice in case 727 of 2022, Friends of the Irish Environment, who are not on my side altogether, but there you have it. Folks, have I explained that? Now, if you want me to go over that again, if you post underneath, I will. If you don't, ask me any question you wish. But that's the situation. This is the corruption. This is absolute corruption when they break the law to get their point of view across. Break the law. Imagine if you were convicted of doing some terrible act, killing somebody, and you were sentenced to death. I mean, the European Convention says you can't do that, and Irish law says you can't do that. And yet to go ahead and they're going to hang you. When you think you'll be able to appeal and get this dealt with. It's as simple and basic as that. Anyway, we'll see you back. I hope that's a help. Good luck. Thank you.